This podcast is for entertainment purposes only. It's not to be taken as financial advice.
For those who haven't done a lot of capital raising, the easiest time to raise capital is when you hand someone a check. For like those duplexes, if I hand someone a check, they gave me $90,000, I give them a check for 180. If I have my next project lined up and you go, here you go, here's $180,000. By the way, I have an opportunity that I want to discuss with you. It's going to be, we're going to need about $180,000.
You're listening to the RE Social Podcast with your hosts, Andrew and Vince from OnV Invest. For more information, go to onvinvest.com.
What's up, you guys? Welcome to another episode of RE Social. Today, we have a super cool guest, Christian from Christian and Cody, or Cody and Christian. I don't know how they say it. They've been on BP, YouTube, and as far as I know, they're very good with seller financing and trying to find like creative ways of getting multifamily. And we're talking more than duplex and triplexes. So something I really want to get into. Welcome to the show, Christian.
Hey, thanks for having me on. I appreciate being here.
Cool, man. Hey, do you want to give our listeners a little bit of background about yourself, like how you got into this game?
Yeah. I started my business partner, Cody. If you guys ever see our channel, Cody and Christian Multifamily Strategy, he's 22 now. He started at 19. I started a little bit later, a little bit more conventionally. Bought a condo. I house hacked with my wife. Did the 9-to-5 for 7 years. Finally, when COVID hit, I've been wanting to be an investor my whole life. Finally bought a duplex. And after I bought that first duplex, within 4 or 5 months, bought a second duplex. Partner with Cody and bought a 38-plex. And after that, within a few months, we bought a 7, a 12, a 6, another 10. Scaled up over the course of 18 months from start to where I'm at today. I have 95 units that I own, and we're under contract for some bigger stuff we'll be announcing soon. But it's been a heck of a journey, and we've done it very, very fast using primarily creative finance, a lot of seller financing, a little bit of private capital, but a whole lot of creativity and relationship building to get where we're at today.
Okay, so I know you said a lot of things. You said a duplex, another duplex, and then you said a 38 unit as though that was like another Apple you bought. So how did you go from buying a duplex with your wife to buying a 38 units?
So I had this goal, and I was 29 and a half, and I was like, man, I really want to get to 30 units by the time I'm 30. And I'd had that goal for a while. I'm like, okay, I'm at 4. And I spent all the money I had to get there. Those were 2 conventional purchases, no creativity. I mean, the second one was a reno project. So I did private finance at 101% down, but it was pretty simple. I went to a hard money lender. They wrote the note. I had basic transactions, and I spent all my money on these 2 duplexes. They're cool because the income from them paid the mortgage on my house. So I got to a point with my own money where my real estate was buying my real estate. That's the point where I was stuck. I didn't know how to get creative to move past that, because now I'm like, oh, I have no money, and I had quit my job. I don't have a huge income anymore. So how do I move forward? Cody was my property neighbor on the other side of the street from my second duplex. He had a 6-plex that me and him would collaborate with. And he'd turned 21 and had 30 units, and he started with $3,000. So I called him over to my office, and I was like, I'm trying to get to 30 units by 30. You're 21 with 30 units, and you did this without money. Now I don't have money. How do we move forward? Just so happens there was a 38 unit building that had been on market for 15 years that no one had figured out how to take down. It was a huge project. And Cody's like, well, I've known about this forever. However, I can't take on 38 more units by myself. And so that's where our partnership came together. We ended up meeting with the seller. Turns out the only thing they cared about was their price, and they wanted to retire on payments of $10,000 a month. So all we had to do was figure out, okay, how do we write the contract at low interest where we have high principal pay down equal to $10,000 a month? So we ended up buying 38 units in Washington State for like $55,000 a door. Absolutely killer price. And that's how we got started in creative finance. Raised the $300,000 we needed down. It was seller financed. They financed $1.7 million, and we had to bring in $300,000. Brought in a few capital partners and have since bought them out. So that's how we got started on the 38. And everything after that has been creatively financed or seller financed.
How did you find this seller?
That was actually, it's been on and off market since Cody was 8 years old. It's been that one was a listed property. So
And nobody bought it at
contacted
55 a door?
what was that?
Nobody wanted to buy it at $55 a door?
Nope, no one wanted to buy it at 55,000 a door. Turns out, lots of problems with it.
Mhm.
There's 7 septic tanks. Only 4 of them work really well. We have a bunch of failed septic drain fields,
Mhm.
and they had a huge non-payment problem on the property.
Okay.
The owners were bringing in day one. It was about $5,600 a month on 38 units.
Wow.
It's 9 months after the purchase today, going on 10 months, and we're collecting about 26,500 a month.
Wow, a lot to unpack there, dude. That's okay. So let me break it down so people can understand. So you have duplexes. He's got a 6 unit. You meet this guy and he's got 38 units, been on the market for decades. And you're like, yeah, I could buy this. Oh, how about income? Oh, it makes nothing. We're going to lose money on it, but you still had the guts to just buy it. Like, did you have a plan when you were purchasing it or no?
Oh yeah. So I just done a huge reno project, granted on 2 units, not on 38. But I'd done just down the street, just done reno. Cody knows how to manage. He bought a really nice building and a really dumpy building, 2 12 plexes before this, both seller financed. He knows how to manage great units. He knows how to manage in that market units that are hugely problematic. I already had relationships with the housing authority. So prior to close, we already had all the non-pays. We had a lot of headway on collecting back due rent, future rents. Their systems, housing authority will pay 3 months of their past due and 3 months into the future. So starting out, we got huge collections. We got a lot of $10,000 checks for tenants who've been delinquent for years. Other thing we did is we came through. Rents on that building were averaging about $380. It's a market where 1 bed's rent for about 1,000. So we just did uniform bumps to 600. And with that, we came in and we actually started doing management. The owners had no debt and they were still losing money on the property. So they couldn't do anything to fix it up. Day one, we came in, we replaced refrigerators, replaced ovens, appliances were done. We immediately started renovating units. So we put all this energy into the property. And we said, yeah, rent's going to about half of market rent. We had 1 person leave. Everyone else just started paying as we started putting energy into the property. And the few who didn't either got on government assistance, which was fairly easy, or they found someone to replace their lease and we got it ramped up. Today, we have 2 vacancies out of 38 units.
So you're saying since you started doing the work on the property without expecting anything back from the tenants, the people just started paying?
Well, they do have to pay. It was, we posted pay or vacates.
Yeah, sure, of course.
Everyone was happy to pay. There's nowhere else in that city you can rent for $600. I know because now I own the rest of the other properties that they could have rented. There's nowhere else that you can rent that low in that county. So we went from ridiculously low to about half of market rent. No one had a huge problem with that. The problems they had and the reason they stopped paying is because they weren't getting anything. There was people who had toilets that just weren't working. It's like, you can't live like that. I wouldn't pay rent either if my landlord didn't give me a working stove, a working fridge, or a working bathroom. So we came in and we fixed the immediate problems. And we said, hey, this is a much better place to live now. And you do actually have to start paying your rent. There were a lot of people that they leased to who just couldn't. And especially during COVID, there's a lot of extra money for government assistance. And we were able to work with people. So we didn't have to displace almost anyone. We were just able to get them the assistance they needed to start paying.
Mm-hmm. That's insane, dude. So you just took it on. And then, so let's talk about the structuring of this deal. So because I do very creative deal structures because I as well don't have a lot of money. So you raised $300,000, but it sounds like it was not an equity raise and it was a debt raise. And then you just paid them back.
It was an equity raise. Okay. We can't, I would not restructure it this way. This was us just learning how to do it. Okay. We gave everyone equal equity. And we're like, look, this is our first big capital raise.
Okay.
At least for us, that was big at the time. So everyone came in, 3 investors brought $100,000 in. We went 20, 20, 20, 20, and we have a buyout clause that gives us a right to buy them out in 5 years for double what they put in. So everyone who put in 100, I can buy you out at 200 in the future. There's about $2 million of upside on the total project. So we figured, okay, that's going to be pretty easy to pay out 3 investors at a total buyout of 600,000. What we ended up doing was just doing that early out of equity from the rest of our portfolio. We just refinanced and paid them out in 6 months. We negotiated it down a little bit. So they got a very early payout, and we just paid it out from our existing portfolio.
So you pay them a 2x equity multiple, but you don't even have to wait 5 years to pay them out. It was just much sooner than that, right?
Which in retrospect, really expensive money. We bought out, a lot of them, maybe they got a 50% equity bump for an early buyout, but in 6 months, making 50% on your money is a lot better than doubling your money in 5 years. So investors were stoked. They got a huge win. We got to control the property. Today, only Cody and I own it. Our appraisal came in 3-4 weeks ago. Appraisal came in at 3.41 million. So we bought for 2. We put about 150 in reno into the building out of cash flow. And we sold a little bit of land to the government. But we spent that all on renovations. So 150 in renovation, about 450,000 of buyouts. And we've improved the value of the building about 1.4 million. So not a terrible transaction for our first partnership deal. I don't recommend people do those deals if you don't already know what you're doing. You don't have cash flow to sustain it. Cody and I had enough in our portfolio, and we had enough experience in that market to take on a big project. But that is day one, negatively cash flowing, 5 figures a month is not a winning strategy. I wouldn't do that on a lot of projects.
Did you structure the payment plan with the seller as an interest only, or deferred for like 3 to 6 months till you get the cash flow, something like that?
We had a lower payment for the first 6 months.
Okay.
We were paying $7,000 a month for the first 6 months, and then it bumps to 10 after the first 10. So we had a lower payment for the first several months operating the property, and we put enough in the reserve account where Cody and I both contributed about 50,000 into the reserve. So we had some operating capital. We had enough to float that project while we collected rents and did our initial renovations. So that's how we put those together.
Nice. Drew, did you have any questions for this particular property? No, you're all good. Cool, man. So you got okay, very interesting story, man. Like, because our entire portfolio is like 35 units, and you were like, yeah, we just bought a 38 directly. So you got the 2 units, you got the couple of duplexes or the condos, and then he's got a couple of sixplexes. You went and bought the 38 unit. Now you're off to the races. People know what's happening. So what did you do next?
Our next deal we closed about 3 weeks later. We're already under contract for it. From our YouTube channel, someone saw us online who was a family friend of mine. He was one of the 21 people who were watching us. And he gave me a call and said, hey, I actually want to get my son into real estate, except he lives out of state. And this is my last multifamily property. Would you be willing to partner with him on this deal and help manage the property? It happens to be in Seattle, right next to my house. It's like an 8-minute drive for me. So did that one 4.5% down, 3% interest with a fixed $1,000 a month principal payment. So super low payments, purchased for $1.1 million, but again, 4.5% down. So cost us $50,000 as a group to lock down the property. Cash flowed positive over $1,000 a month day one, and we did rent bumps immediately. We've renovated one of those units, but that was the next deal we did. Closed weeks after the 38. That's been a very passive project for it. Love the building. Cash flows really well day one. That's how we like to purchase. Very low down. The next deal we did was 2 weeks after that. We closed on a seller financed. They're 3 side-by-side duplexes. Some of the nicer units in our portfolio, they're really cute. 2-bed, 1-bathroom, large garage units. Big lush backyards. Those seller financed, 90% seller financed, 10% down. We had a $90,000 raise. And this is the last one I'll go into the structure on because this is really fun. everything we do is relationship based, period. I'm not calling people to buy their property. I've actually never asked anyone to sell their property to me ever. It has always been a mutual conversation where we're talking about goals and getting to know each other, and someone else suggests a transaction. For the capital raise, we do the same thing. I just meet with a lot of investors, and I like coffee a lot. I'm from Seattle, so we drink a lot of coffee here. So I just meet people for coffee and talk about what they're trying to do, and that's all I do. So the investor for this had a goal. I want to double my money in real estate every 5 years. And he's made money, he's lost money, and he's like, I don't like doing it myself. I just want to place it and double every 5 years. So on that deal, he wrote a 90,000. We just asked, and he just sent the money over. He's like, oh, that's perfect. We wrote a 2-to-1, no monthly payments, no share of the cash flow. Just, we're all going to go in 33, 33, 33. We can buy you out in 5 years for double, or we can buy you out in the first 2 years for a 1.5 multiple. And he's like, awesome, love it. And so we did that deal. Also $0 out of pocket, also cash flowed over $1,000 a month day one. And we just kept doing a lot of deals like that. Every time we transact minus the 38, we just add more cash flow day one. And that's how we always try to buy.
When you say you can buy them out of the deal for 1.5 or 2x the multiple, does that also mean they have to accept it? They have no choice?
Yep.
Oh, very interesting.
Yeah, just a very simple clause that just says we have the right to it's called a buyout clause. We have a right to buy this at a fixed price in the future. If you're familiar with lease options, it's the option is similar. We just have an option to purchase at a set price. Instead of buying the property, we're just buying interest in the company. But very simple clause, any lawyer should be able to draft for you. But Cody and I don't want long-term partners. That's why we don't syndicate. I don't want to be partnered with a lot of people, and I want a clear path to give investors fantastic security, which is why I like giving a little bit of ownership. However, I don't want to be partnered with them forever. So I make sure from day one, before we sign that contract, there's a clear path on exactly how and when we're going to own the property without the additional partner.
So either way, you want the partners to be out at year 5 at a 2x multiple.
Yep, that happened to be that deal. I have partners that, a lot of times we will raise as debt. Those are ones that we raised as equity with the buyout. But I mean, some of them are just, we pay 8 to 10% interest and return of principal at the end of the year. It depends on what their goals are. There's sometimes people are just looking for cash flow. The investor that we had for that particular deal had a really high paying job and didn't care as much about the cash flow today. He's trying to multiply money so that he can buy something bigger for cash flow in the future. So it just depends on what their goals are and making sure that you line the offer up to the right deal. That deal was low on cash flow, a little low on cash flow day one with a ton of upside. So I'd rather give equity than debt because I wanted to be able to service the existing debt. On a deal that's super cash flow heavy, I'm probably going to look for an investor who we can line up as debt. So we just own it day one and we can meet the monthly payments out of cash flow. But the main thing for me is that it flows day one.
That's very interesting, man. So if you find a partner and then the partner is also really cool and they're like, hey man, we really like working with you. We don't want to get out of the deal after 5 years. Can we just be part of the deal? Would you not have them on?
It depends on the deal. There's a couple people who I partner with. I have a friend, his name's Adam. Cody and I have 22 units that he's 33% on. We'll keep growing that portfolio with him. I love that relationship and that partner. We have a structure that works for us. So I'll never buy him out. For most people, it helps me scale that. For those who haven't done a lot of capital raising, the easiest time to raise capital is when you hand someone a check. For like those duplexes, if I hand someone a check, they gave me $90,000, I give them a check for 180. If I have my next project lined up and you go, here you go. Here's $180,000. By the way, I have an opportunity that I want to discuss with you. It's going to be, we're going to need about $180,000. I heard you might be liquid for it. It's a much easier capital raise because one, there's trust. You've executed on what you said you would. You just made the money. And it's a nice, humorous, easy way to be like, hey, heard a rumor that you might be liquid for exactly this much. Here you go. So typically what we'll do is we'll get their win, we'll execute the buyout, and then we will introduce the next project that they can be a part of.
Yeah, we do something similar too, man. Like we pay people back whatever they put in, and then we invest it in the next deal. But we actually keep them in the deal too. So
That's
we
awesome.
actually give all of the money back, not a 2x. It's whatever the 1x, let's say, they get the money back, but they hold the same equity position. So it's a very lucrative deal for the partners.
Yeah, that's what we did with that, with the 22 units, the 12 and the 10 that we owned with that partner. We needed his money to close it, and we knew we could refinance in 6 months and pull the money back out. So he came in with the money to close. That gave us our answer of how do we own it. And then we refied him out. He got his principal back, and he stays on the deal with us. And all of us are now in the deal, zero down. We just needed a very short-term cash injection. So we've done that structure too. It just depends on who the investor is and what their goal is. If you have people who want to stay on deals and you're comfortable having those partners, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's cool, man. I had a couple of things I wrote down while you were talking, which is very interesting to me. You said that this guy from Seattle, he was one of the 10 people who are watching your channel, just happened to sell you a unit, like a 7-plex. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, how did he find you?
Yeah, so I love this. This is I'm warm and cold on Grant Cardone. There's things I love about him. There's things I don't like about him. And same with this company. There's things I love about it, things I don't. He's a polarizing guy. However, he said one thing that really resonated with us, and we've done this. He's like, no one ever documents the journey before they make it. Like, no one starts from the beginning and documents the whole thing. And so Cody and I really early made the decision, let's do that. If you go back and watch our first video on our YouTube channel, it's Cody before he's closed on his first 12-plex saying, hey, I'm going to do this. And he go all the way from owning nothing to Cody has 105 units today. He has a 12-plex I don't, and I have a duplex he doesn't. But we've documented the entire journey. So at that time, I was posting, we launched a YouTube video. I posted on my Facebook, hey, friends, we're doing it. We had this baby little channel that no one cared about. However, one of my childhood friends, fathers, just happened to follow me on Facebook, saw the YouTube video and went, oh my gosh, I've been looking for how I'm going to pass this to my son. We already trust Christian. We know Christian. This is a good way to bring the deal together. And so it just came in from a small pool, but I just told my story and someone happened to resonate with that story. So when I said earlier, everything's relationship based, we never ask for a sale. That's what I mean. I mean, we just talk, tell stories, communicate goals. I break it into 3 parts. You have relatability. You communicate a goal and you communicate the significance behind that goal. We have a little circle drill in our course that goes through this. But if you communicate those 3 things succinctly to someone else, they now understand who you are, what you're trying to do, and why you're trying to do it. And if you can learn those same things about them, the actual deal opportunities just appear organically. You just meet new people and everyone knows what the other's trying to do. When there's an obvious deal to be done, someone will bring it up.
What are the 3 things you said again?
So relatability, which is just your common point. That could be anything in your story. I mean, it could be
you want to relate with the seller or whatever, right?
Yeah, or about a duplex down the street from you. That was my go-to one when I was starting. I'm like, hey, we're property neighbors. You need something to get in the door. So relatability. Then you have a goal that somehow relates to your relatability. I map this out for everything. But you have a clear goal. For me, it was my wife wanted to get out of the public school district. She was a kindergarten teacher. And I'm like, I want to retire my wife from teaching so she can do what she wants to do. That was my goal. And I wasn't going to do it by buying a bunch of duplexes. That takes way too long for the timeline I was on. So when I was calling people, go on about your 12-plex. I just bought a duplex and I realized I can't just buy duplexes and make it to my goal. So I was curious how you got started. Now I've communicated relatability and a goal. And the significance behind that is all the things that my wife wants to do. And she has a bunch of cool projects. I can communicate those. But you just go around the circle drill and you go, here's who I am. Here's my goal, what I'm doing. And the third is significance. Why is it important that I reach my goal? And that creates buy-in. And when other people want to help you, seller financing, sorry for the run-on sentence, but seller financing is done because people trust you. A lot of people spin it as, oh, there's tax benefits, or there's all these transactional reasons that you would do this. Oh, you'll earn interest, the monthly payments. Don't you like making monthly payments? They have all these information reasons.
Mm-hmm.
The reasons people seller finance to Cody and I are they have more time or more money than they have time. Most of them have already made it, and they're invested in helping us out. They see us as the next generation. Many of them see us as the sons they never had, but they're invested in helping us because we communicated our goal, and our goal is significant enough where they're like, I want to help. I trust you because your goals and objectives align with mine. Therefore, we're going to seller finance to help you out. It's not for them. It's because we're all on the same mission. So that's why we do that circle drill. And that's how, if anyone wonders how we seller financed 100 units average between Cody and I in a 12-month partnership, that's exactly how we did it. We just met people and hit those 3 points.
That's really cool, man. I mean, we thought we were killing it buying 35 units in 3 years, and
You are killing it. That's awesome. Most people will never do that.
I know, but I'm saying that's really cool because there's always the next level you can. That's why I love doing this podcast. I'm talking to all these high level guys. Some of the peers you might know, Hayden, Kathy Fedke, Neil Bawa, all these guys, they're coming on. They don't have to do it. You guys don't have to do it, but you want to share your knowledge to someone who's trying to come up, to your level, which is really cool. I like that about this industry. People really want to help other people come up. That's not a real thing like, in other industries, people are not going to give you the secrets,
Yeah, it's very consistent. It's a tight-knit community, and real estate plays a lot like a board game. Like once you're in and get the rules, it's not that hard to play, but getting in is the hard part. So all we do is just meet people who own multifamily in the markets we want to own. And it's like, people love to share what they did. A lot of people don't care about real estate. And so when they find someone who wants to hear about how they built it, as opposed to how to buy their stuff, people just light up and share everything. All of our creative contracts, all of the how to buy real estate without any money out of pocket. Most of our zero down stuff has been from owners in our market. They plop us in their truck. They drive around every property. They talk about how they did it. It's not in a book. It's not on any podcast or online. It's just you meet with the people playing the game and they teach you how to play the game. It's that simple.
How do you seek these guys out? Like, how are you doing a title search on like 5 to 20 unit buildings and then emailing them or mailing them? Or
oh, I love this. 100% only Google Maps.
Google
I
Maps.
found that every single property that I could ever buy is on Google Maps. So I look for multifamily buildings in my market, and then I go to the county tax records just one by one. Because I'm not being transactional, I'm not bombing through a mail list. I make an average of 1 call a day. I call about 5 times a week to owners. Of those 5 calls, I usually book 2, sometimes just 1 owner meetings with a new owner. And then I go get coffee with them. And that's all I do. The way I figure, there's 52 weeks in a year. If I only met 1 new owner in my market every week, that's 52 new owners. It's a pretty tight-knit community. If you meet 52 players of the game every single year, you're going to find transactions without asking for transactions. So that's all we do. I Google Maps. I find the buildings that they like to own. I Google the phone number for the person who owns it. And we go from there. Cody and I have an 8-minute video on our YouTube channel, Cody and Christian Multifamily Strategy, on how to find any property owner for free. And it's 8 minutes of, I Google this property. I go to the county tax assessor. I figure out the entity that owns it. I Google the entity. I find the person. I Google their name and the city they're in, and their phone number magically pops up. We did it for a few A-list celebrities. They picked up the phone and they helped us build our course. So it works for literally anyone. But yeah, no skip tracing, no list. And I'm not hammering the phones every day. I spend about 7 to 10 minutes a day prospecting, probably on average.
And what's your ratio to getting calling and getting people on the call, and then getting people on the call to getting a coffee? Roughly.
Yeah, this is not normal for everyone. About 50% of the people will answer the phone when we call. So about 50%
really
of the
high.
calls. Cody's never had a no to coffee. So Cody's 100%. I have had a few no's, but it probably 95% for me and 100% for Cody. If we call and talk to an owner, they will meet with us.
That's abnormally high.
Yeah, it's just the circle drill.
10%.
I took a big whiteboard and I mapped out everything to, like, I used to play soccer as a kid. That could be a relatable point. What is my related goal and what's the significance? And we just mapped it out for everything in our life. Cody's a college dropout. I went through college. I worked for CoStar for 4 years. Cody worked for Safeway for 23 minutes before quitting.
Mhm.
They're all relatable points that we've mapped out our story. So if I'm on a call with someone, I can communicate it in like 30 seconds. Here's who I am. Here's why I'm calling. I want to know how you got there. Most people will respond with, well, I'm not selling the property. It's like, awesome. I don't even have the money to buy it. I'm not trying to buy the property. Here's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to scale up my portfolio. I had this crazy goal and I'm getting closer to it. I wanted to just meet with you and learn how you got started with how you're at. And we talk a little bit and it's like, okay, well, I'm in town next week. Let's get coffee. It's hard to say no to because it's free coffee and I'm not trying to buy your stuff. There's just no transaction at the end of it. The transaction is an exchange of information, which is free.
And then what is the value?
It.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying people are usually open to it because it costs you a little bit of time and a free coffee. I mean, the value proposition is pretty simple.
What is the value proposition on the guy on the other end from you?
If you're anything like me, and I'm guessing you actually have a podcast, you love talking real estate, right?
Yeah.
Most people in real estate don't have a lot of friends who want to hear all this stuff about their real estate. Just realistically, people love playing the game and people love talking real estate. Not enough people ask me, how did you actually get started? I love sharing. You guys like sharing. Most owners are like that. Not everyone is, but a vast majority of people actually want to network and talk to other owners. They're invested in, hey, you own the property across the street from me? I would love to meet the other owners of my community. So I think the main thing is I'm calling for a simple conversation on how they got started. They want to know who I am and what I mean for the market. It's just not a very taxing thing to ask for, hey, can we get coffee when I'm right next to your house?
Right.
I've noticed the same thing myself and getting meetings and just learning to level up and network with higher level people just in general. And I've continually been shocked at just how easy it is and how open they are to just handing you the keys of the kingdom. I'm like, yeah, this is how I did it. Here's the advertising that I did. Here's the steps that I took. I've had some powerful lunches that has really helped change my life and therefore Envy's, course, just because they were just cool guys and just like, they're excited to share their journey and their success, so it's interesting.
It's amazing when you can just ask simply and confidently. People usually say yes. We gave, when we were launching our course, we were debating what platform to use. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with Brad Lee. He's all over Instagram, but he has a platform that Cardone used called Lightspeed VT. We did the same thing. I Googled Bradley's phone number. I found the right one. Cody gave him a call because Cody everyone loves Cody because he's like, hey, I'm 22 and I've done all this. It's Cody's 8 years younger, so it's 8 years more powerful. Cody gave him a call and said, hey, can I have 2 minutes of your time? I had a question for you about your platform. Brad texted right back, scheduled a call, called him from his car the next day and said, like, here's how my platform works. Talk to me about what you guys are doing, laid it all out for us and helped us build our platform. But I mean, it works for, online celebrities. It worked for your neighbor 5 houses down the street. You find their number, you call them, and you just don't try to make a transaction. You just talk to people to get to know who they are.
So when you go into these, I want to ask you this as a follow-up question to what you've been talking about, is you go to these meetings, you actually sound like you genuinely not trying to buy every single person's houses or the apartments.
Never. I have never asked anyone to sell me anything ever.
So do they just offer?
Yeah. Because I've communicated my goals. They know that I'm trying to expand. I don't need to tell them I want to buy properties. They know I want to buy properties. I don't care if it's their property or not. Sometimes they've just introduced me to someone. Cody and I'm not announcing it online yet, but within the next few weeks, we're doing the biggest acquisition we've ever done. It's stellar. It's a $4.5 million project where I'm super excited for it. But it came in again, from YouTube. Granted, it's a bigger channel now, but I had one of my YouTube buddies who I've communicated with. He also owns real estate. He called me and said, hey, this is the wrong project for me. I have a deal for you that I think you guys should take a look at. You might be interested in this. And it's like, awesome. So just because I had a relationship with that owner, he found a deal that was wrong for him. He called me out of the blue and said, you need to look at this. And this is the coolest thing it will be the coolest thing we've ever done. And we've drafted it up and it's in motion, but I don't talk about them until they're a little bit closer to close. But opportunities like that just come up because they want to move you forward. They might know a friend, they might know another lender. Sometimes I call to ask how they bought a 12-plex. They pick me up in their car, they drive their whole portfolio, and they go like, I kind of want to just sell out because I want to pass a note to my kid instead of all this real estate. Like, our kids don't want to inherit all these properties. We've had that proposal before. I called about a 6-plex. They drove a 100-unit portfolio with us, and they said, what if you guys just bought all of it? I'm like, okay, that works too. We'll seller finance all of it, 90% seller finance, just come up with the 10, and we'll do this over the next decade. I'm like, awesome. I have a 10-year pipeline for 100 units with people who proposed, this is what we want to do. So it's crazy, but it works. I've never asked anyone to sell anything before.
Yeah, this is really crazy, dude. I mean, I'm really thinking of, like, selfishly speaking, just Drew and I, we should be doing this crap every day. I'm super into not spending time with the right people. Like, Drew's the only person I choose to spend time with. All of my friends, I'm like making fun of him all the time, right?
Yeah.
But if we did this, like, one call a day to Inland Empire, which is in California, is one of the largest growing markets in the US. We own about, I don't know, 10 houses there or something. But if we can just call people and then just have one call every day for the next year, I'm pretty sure one of them is going to go out with us.
Oh yeah. One call a day, 50% of them pick up. Say you have a 50% close ratio. You're going to meet one person a week, 52 people a year. One of 52 people in Inland Empire are going to introduce you to or sell you something. So I don't worry about the transaction because our pipeline's too big. The seller tried to retrade us after we shook on it, which you're instantly blacklisted if you do that to me. If we shake, the deal is done. And if you change it, I mean, if there's a mitigating circumstance, like something's discovered, that's fine. But if you retrade me after we shake, we're out. But I mean, we had an 87 unit opportunity that came up, seller financed, low down, that just floated in because someone knew who we were because we bought the property next door. As you play the game, you just meet owners. It's one of the bigger players in town. I'll never do business with him because he got himself on the blacklist. But assuming that you do what you say and you operate ethically, 110%, we have more pipeline than we could possibly close, and we don't go after deals.
Okay, I want to pivot a little bit at this point, which is I'm really interested in is, okay, so this is all great unless you're overpaying it, then none of this matters, right? So I want to know, so how are you underwriting your deals? How are you paying, above cap rates? What's the discount you're getting, and why is the seller doing that?
Oh, I love this question. Okay. Things that I don't care about in a deal, cap rate, IRR, any of the alphabet soup, DSCR, anything that most investors look at, I don't care.
Yeah.
I have two metrics, and Cody and I say this probably on every YouTube video. Our channel is probably sick of hearing it. How do we buy it? How do we never lose it? If I can answer those two things, I do not care about anything else. If you have a property, say it's worth $1 million, and you call me and say, hey, I want you to buy this property for $2 million. And say it's a very mediocre cap rate. If I can borrow creatively, if I can borrow at, let's say, 0.5% of interest, which I've seen people borrow at 0% for deals. But if I can borrow at hyper low interest and say we have a 50-year term on it, I'm willing to bet that any property today worth 1 million will be worth more than 2 million in 50 years. Feasibly, there's no way they don't double in value in 50 years. I would do that deal. So the price does not matter to me at all. The cap rate on the 38 was a -1 cap. People don't usually get excited about -1 caps, which is why no one was trying to buy it. We bought it on terms that allowed us to make it work with a strategy that we quintupled the income in 9 months. I'm just looking at, do I know how I'm going to buy it, which is the deal. That is, what's the price? What's the terms? What do we need to do to make it happen? So that's question one. Question two, how do I never lose it? How am I going to get it into long-term fixed rate debt that cash flows? If I can answer those two questions, I can buy the property. I'm never in a position where I have to sell it. And that's the only two metrics we look at in underwriting. So it's all just a function of cash flow. And that is all I care about.
Because you can make the terms in such a way to make it work for your two questions you ask yourself. That's all you're going to do. If you make a 100-year term, any deal will work right now. It doesn't matter how much you pay for it, right?
Yeah.
So,
I mean, you probably can't buy $100,000 property for $100 million. I don't think you can make that work.
Yeah.
But I mean, within reason,
Yes.
terms are more powerful than price. People get stuck on price, which is why Cody and I have been able to buy so much. If you're looking at cap rate or price, it's like there's a lot on the market that doesn't work. If you're looking at it as, okay, I don't just need to manipulate price. I can look at amortization schedule, interest only. I can look at when is the balloon payment. Cody's first deal is seller financed, 90%. The note is 30-year fixed rate, fully amortized seller finance note. It cash flowed day one. So it's like, how do you never lose it? It will pay itself off in 30 years without having to do anything.
And with these seller financing deals, the sellers are okay with you getting a 30-year AM or IO. Obviously, you're going to put in a balloon payment at some point. So I'm expecting that to be around 5-year mark.
Cody's first one's full 30 years, no balloon.
Really? How old is this guy?
The seller was, I want to say 32 at the time,
okay.
early 30s.
Okay.
What we typically do is 5 to 10 year seller finance note. Several of ours have an option to extend. So one of the sellers who taught us everything we know, they're worried about interest rates, so they want to hedge against that. So they do a 5-year balloon with a plan in place where when we get near that balloon, we're going to get together. We're just going to renegotiate, and we're going to do what's called a seller refinance. You go to the same seller and they just write a new 5-year note to replace the old note. So feasibly, we'll finance with them until they're dead. They don't want to ever get out of the monthly payments. They want seller finance notes and they want to hold a lot of them.
And they don't want a bulk sum?
Nope, they don't need it. That's the other thing that we do. There are, okay, I'm not going to name drop because I don't want to get sued. There are some gurus in our space, on the creative space, who love taking small properties from mom and pop. Like their whole thing is like, hey, I negotiated the crap out of grandma and I got her house in Arizona for $35,000. I did it. If you're trying to play that game, those are people who can't be nearly as flexible. The people who are seller financing to us have several hundred units. Their cash flow is well over $100,000 a month. They don't need the money. The down payment doesn't matter at all. They just want to see a little skin in the game. So like 10%, you guys are good because we know how you operate. For people who don't know them, they'll seller finance. They just require 20% down. But again, I like to operate with professionals in the space. So most of the sellers for me are not one-time sellers. They're masters of the game who don't need the money.
Very interesting, dude. I'm actually going to start doing this method. I'm super interested. My one follow-up question to this, which you might also find interesting, is why is the seller not putting this on the market? What is the advantage for him to do it? Because he doesn't care about the money, or you are willing to pay more than what he can get from the market?
I've overpaid for properties, again, because the terms were stellar and it cash flowed day one, and I know how I'm going to hold the property forever. I'm not encouraging people just to buy stuff because you can buy it. But I've overpaid, I've underpaid for properties. Again, it comes down to relationship. People want to work with us because they know what I'm trying to do. They know us. We've got coffee before. I've helped them out on projects. When they're going to sell, they're like, well, look, I can list it on market. I can pay an agent and I can figure it out. Or I can pass it to someone who I know is going to carry this property on. Cody and I are buying, we started with a lot of Class C. We're buying a little bit more Class A today. But some people just love that property. It's been their baby for years. And they're like, I want the right group to manage this property and take it to the next level. The relationship is why they'd sell it to us. They could list it and maybe get more. Or they can just call us, get a yes, we put it together, and they know their property's in good hands.
And you have a management company that works with you?
Our first property management company took a few of our properties under management, collected rents and security deposits, then took both of those and they left the state and disappeared and stole all the money. That sucked. So we actually started our own property management company. And we have, today we have 2 employees plus Cody and I, so we're a team of 4. I'm adding 2 more next month. But we actually are one of the larger property management companies today in Central Washington, manages our whole portfolio and a few of our friends. But we took that in-house. We got screwed once and made a decision that we weren't going to outsource that particular task again.
That is insane, dude. You said, oh, this guy stole my car, so I'm going to make cars. Like, that's insane.
Pretty much. Funny enough, I've had that happen too. I am not a car guy, but I have an old Tesla Model S because the one time I've personally ever lent money, they defaulted and I negotiated for their car as opposed to paying me off. So funny enough, I have done that. I found out I don't like repoing stuff and I don't like lending money. So if you want someone to lend, don't go to me. But yeah, irony there. But yeah, that's pretty much been the policy. I like to take things in-house as long as it's vertical integration. When you own 100+ units in one market and you own the property management company and you control the properties around your property's management, we can raise rent on all the properties at the exact same time, $100. So when you can control market rent, $100 rent bump doesn't change most people's life. When you have 100 units and you raise rent $100, that's a lot more cash flow. In a 6 cap market, that makes millions of dollars just by simultaneous rent bumps.
Yeah, dude, that's a lot of $100. Let's do the math, guys. Times 100 units times 12 divided by 0.06. That's a $2 million evaluation increase for just raising $100 a month, guys, at a 6 cap.
Every unit, if you're in a 6 cap market, which makes the math really easy.
I think your internet cut out, Christian.
$100 increase, such advocates of a big unit count. Oh, sorry about that. Am I back?
Yeah.
Okay. That's why we got out of buying a lot of duplexes and smaller properties, is when you have more units, each time you raise rent $100 on a 6 cap, you make $20,000 of new value, just magically appears. If you can get 100, 200 units and you do the exact same thing, you're going to make $2, $4,
so if you, another fun way to think about this, guys, is if Christian raised the rents every year, just $100 on his 100 units, he makes $2 million a year till he dies.
And then the fun part is we bought a bunch of stuff that's way under market. So Cody and I bought all these. We raised rent an average of $225 per unit this year.
Yeah, man,
is there awesome. Is there no rent control in Washington, or how does that work?
There will be. There is no rent control yet, which I'm grateful for. Buying in areas that have rent control is difficult. Statistically, once you introduce rent control, landlords just set rent bumps to whatever the limit is. So if they introduce rent control to Washington, the cool thing is we already own a lot of buildings that are performing. So it actually really benefits us now. If you own before rent control is implemented, it's a terrible thing economically. It makes you a ton of money as a landlord if you own before rent control is implemented. But we will have it here. We follow California so darn closely. And Oregon's been talking about it. I am 100% sure the entire West Coast from side to side will introduce rent control at some point.
Well, statewide rent control in California is not bad. It's pretty generous. It is 5% plus inflation, right? But there are some counties which has garbage rent controls.
Yeah, I would be slow to own in King County, Washington. That's Seattle and the surrounding areas. I have 7 units in Seattle, and that is I'm not actively trying to expand that. Grant County is a 3-hour drive away on the other side of the mountains. The rules in that county will be a lot more lax than they would be in a central metro.
Yeah, we have a similar issue with LA County. If we get thrown deals in LA County, I just laugh.
Yeah. And some of the California, Washington, some of the requirements in the core cities, it's like background checks. You can't discriminate by criminal histories. You have to accept the first person, even if you have a much more qualified individual to rent. It's in the order they come in Seattle. So I could have someone who's committed a couple felonies and barely ekes by on credit score, and I have to turn down someone who makes 15 times the rent and has a 800 credit score. I have to accept the first person. Rules like that are just dumb.
Yeah.
So I don't push hard for Seattle. If you look at our portfolio on a map, it's like 85% Grant County. I have a little bit in Kitsap County, which is south and a little bit to the west, and then we have stuff in Pierce County, but we're like this big circle around Seattle where we invest. The actual county, the politics are not for landlords.
Yeah, that's very interesting because in a parallel kind of way, that's exactly kind of what Vince and I are trying to do. We're getting rid of, we're 1031 a bunch of property, just like 2.5-hour drive away, which got us started. We're going to take that all into what's called Inland Empire, which we've referred to a couple of times. That's basically it's where city people are now starting to kind of move out to, get pushed out to occasionally. As a real estate agent, I got a lot more buyers who were like, hey, I was looking at, close to the coast. Now we're going to take an hour out in Inland Empire. So it's growing really fast. And part of the reason why we like it as well is because it's not quite as, if I can just say, just tenant friendly, really, in terms of its regulations. It's just kind of a win-win. It's also an hour away. I like that I can drive to it. I'm old school. Like if something's happening and everyone drops the ball, I like that I can just pick up my whatever tool I got to have and go fix it, whether it's a physical tool or whether it's just like going up there and dealing with the tenant,
Yeah, we have found our reasoning for buying the Seattle property was because people following our channel were saying, hey, you're only able to do this because you're investing in the middle of nowhere, and it's not the middle of nowhere. The major employees are Microsoft, Boeing, and Amazon. They all do a whole bunch of data centers, but regardless, people are like, hey, if you invest in a town of 30,000 people, you can play this game. And so we bought in Seattle just honestly to show people you can do creative financing in a core market. That was our real reason for closing that deal. But yeah, there is more opportunity, and it is easier to operate in friendlier environments. And you typically also have a much tighter knit investor community as you get out of the big cities. You're not playing with all the industrial players. You have a little less ego and more collaboration. And I have had a lot more fun investing in Central Washington on a highly profitable growing lake town than I do investing in Seattle or any of the surrounding areas.
I may be kind of backtracking, and sorry if I am. I think I missed it earlier. Just for my own selfish reasons, you have this list of people you call. Let's call like 1 or 2 a day. Where are you pulling this list from? How are you pre-qualifying these people? Is this all from like CoStar, a title rep? How are you picking these people?
So only through Google Maps. That's it. I just Googled, this is a multifamily property. Have I noticed this one before? Probably. Now in my core market, I definitely know every single building and every single owner. However, to build that, call them one at a time. I'm looking around on a map. I'm like, oh, that's a big roof. Do I know this building? I look through and I'm like, oh my gosh, I've never called this person. I need to know them. And then I Google their number and I call them. That's all I do. There's no CoStar list. Though Cody and I did buy CoStar access 2 weeks ago because we can out of cash flow. I worked for them for years. They just made their pricing model way better for owners. So congratulations. If you're an owner, call your local CoStar rep. It's cheaper than it used to be by like 1/10. So we just picked up CoStar. However, I haven't used it for prospecting yet. I actually need to go and create my own login. I don't know that I've used it yet, but I'm on tangent. Google Maps, find a property, call that person. That is the only thing that I have ever done to define the relationships.
Man, I love it. I love it. I can't believe how simple and yet creative your particular journey is. It's super inspiring. It's very unusual. How did you kind of fall on this niche? We've interviewed a lot of high level guys like you, but like you've got your own kind of space in the corner of like what you're doing. Was there a mentor? Was there a book? How did you stumble into this specific area of like this successful formula you have?
This one was Cody started the journey. I really kind of jumped into, I was the first person to really team up with Cody and the first person to believe with him. And believe in him. And that's been really rewarding for me. But he was calling people as a broker to do transactions. And he kept finding that wasn't working. And so when he finally asked someone who he'd called before and been turned down, asked, hey, can we just meet for coffee? I want to learn how you got started. They said yes. And he's like, maybe there's something to this. And he kept doing that and people kept selling him buildings. And I was like, what the heck? So we kind of stumbled on it. The first mentor that Cody and I shared was just a terrible person. He helped us get started. He helped think creatively, but he was a terrible manager of money. So that relationship didn't work out. That was a mentor who taught us a ton of what not to do in business, which was helpful. The real mentors we've had in the creative space have been the other sellers. When I go out and meet for coffee, I just learn how they did it. I have learned how to do some crazy cool legal structures that are very, very simple just by talking to owners. There's been a few deals that we've had where I've bounced it past some of the creative guys we've bought from before. I just go, man, I can't figure out this deal. How would you guys do it? And they'll just suggest something super simple. But that's how I figured out the buyout agreements. That's how we figured out different debt structures. They showed us a cool way. They bought a bunch of their buildings. The original guys who we started seller financing from in Central Washington, they showed us a building where like, we bought this 0 down by placing a second on a building we bought earlier. So we just seller financed 90%. And then that seller placed a 10% second on a building we bought from them 2 years ago. So our old properties are buying 100% of our new properties. Super simple, right? But most people don't think of that. So those are the mentors who helped us. It's just, instead of going after the transactions, I asked how. And when they shared how, it's really easy to propose to an owner. I have a debt structure that might work. And you propose exactly what they taught you. They tend to be pretty receptive when you apply what they teach you. So that's how we learned. I have not found a book that lays out how to do this. I've not found a YouTube channel that goes deep enough into how to get creative, especially simply. So that's why we launched our channel. We just decided we're going to share everything. We're going to share everything for free. And we made an inexpensive little course if people want to do it more linearly and run through it at themultifamilystrategy.com. But everything we do, you can figure out how we did for free on our channel. That was the goal, because it's hard, but it's stupid simple.
I love it, man. I find that when people truly have mastery of anything, whatever niche, whatever subject, they talk just like you. It's so simple. It's like, oh, solution done. It's like how you analyze a deal. It's just two things. That's it. Like, I love that. It's a true sign of mastery and something. That's the path that we're kind of on. I've unfortunately got to head to another meeting, but what I'm going to take from this is for sure to get more aggressive and just calling people and getting lunches and getting coffees. It's something in the back of my head that I know has brought me a lot of value already, but you kind of get caught in the grind and the day-to-day and the schedules and all this stuff, and barely, skipping lunch, which is what I've been doing. But man, there's just so much value in that. It's super inspirational to hear not only how successful it's been for you, but just how truly simple that you've made it. You're not like overcomplicating anything. So
I appreciate that. That's the brand that we're going for. It's not repeatable if it's not simple. So we make sure we keep it simple. And if it gets too complicated, we probably structured it wrong and we go back and try to restructure it.
Love that. See, Vince is very good at complicating things. I think he likes it though. I think he just does it because he just gets bored because he's an engineer. And so if it's not like hard for him, like he can't even come over for family night and play like Monopoly. He's already bored.
It is easy to over-engineer things. It depends on what you're trying to do. If you're doing it just for yourself, it's like cool. You can engineer it however you want. If you really want to make it repeatable for others, you have to figure out a way to dumb it down. So we're trying to build a board game that everyone can play. I want this to be like Sorry, not like Magic the Gathering.
Love it. Well, I got to bail, but I wish I didn't have to, man. It's been an absolute pleasure. I'm just going to listen in on this podcast when it's launched to get the rest of it. But Vince, keep going. And let's hop on a call whenever you're done so we can talk about kind of our day-to-day stuff and our little Airbnb. But Christian, thank you, man. I'm going to sign off. Awesome. You guys keep chatting, okay?
Pleasure to meet you.
Hey, Christian, so I wanted to, I know they're running out of time, so I'll just keep it short. So do you even deal with banks?
Rarely. I have a few buildings on 5-year notes that we're moving into 10-year debt. Mm-hmm. I hate working with banks. I bought my first condo, my house, my first duplex, and my second duplex were all in bank debt. Mm-hmm. Refinances take forever. They ask for a lot of stuff. They have a million questions. We actually had appraisal come in at 3.4 million and an underwriter who's never been to the market and knew nothing about our property, just decided unilaterally, your rents are too high. I don't believe that Central Washington is this good of a market. We value your property at 2.7 million. I'm like, the appraiser who lives there has been doing this their whole life, values it at 3.4. They just wrote it down because they can. I've also had loans where we passed all of underwriting. We hit every single box. They scheduled our signing and then never sent the docs and ghosted us and decided later, what was their reasoning? I had someone, that was a crazy reason. You and Cody have had so much success. We're afraid that you're due for a loss. You moved too quickly, too successfully, and we're uncomfortable with this. And so they backed out of the loan because we've done as much as we have, as well as we have. It made them uncomfortable because they don't know other players who have moved that quickly with that much cash flow.
That's insane, dude. But I mean, like Drew was saying too, man, Christian, you and Cody's journey is so crazy that I've never heard of anything like this. So do you use the same principles to kind of just do other networking too? Like you meet with, like, for example, this is the last thing I wanted to touch on before I let you go was there's two main things. You need the things to buy, right? So you need stuff to buy and you need stuff to buy it with, which is money. So where are you finding the investor people?
Same way we're finding, talking about ridiculously simple. Because I meet with owners of real estate every single week, just new people, show up at some meetups, do some speaking events, put stuff out on YouTube. Like I'm just out there all the time. I meet people whose goals may be different than, hey, I'm trying to buy or sell real estate. Some people who own a duplex have some cash and they want to invest in other deals. Not all of them want to own a big building. So by meeting different owners of real estate, I have this huge network of people who are interested in investing money into real estate. So most of our capital investors own some property themselves. They have some stuff with us. They have some stuff on their own. And some of them would rather place money in some of Cody and my bigger projects than go out and buy a fourplex for themselves. So all we're doing is the same thing. I'm calling people who own multifamily around me and I'm meeting them. And that everyone we've ever raised capital from has been from those activities.
That's awesome, man. So do you have that's cool. I'm actually gonna try and use this strategy to get something going, and then we should have a chat after 6 months or a year, just to see where we're at. Do you have any suggestions for people like us or anybody who's listening who wants to get started? Like, how do you get started? Just start with the Google Map, the 8-minute video thing. We'll put it on our show notes.
Yeah. If you're trying to get started, talk about over engineering. Don't add steps. The first thing I hear from almost everyone when they call asking for advice, which by the way, you're welcome to call me anytime. If you watch that video on how to find any owner, Cody and I both share our phone number in that video because we show how to find us on properties. So if you watch that video, you can call me and I'll say the same thing. Most people have questions like, do I need to start my LLC already? Who do I use for property management? Can I buy without having property management already set up? All this stuff. Just clear it all. You need to do a few things. Choose the market you're investing in. Location's number one. 2, you need to go buy a piece of real estate before you worry about any of the structure or the property management or the accounting or any of the other problems. So I would keep it ridiculously simple. Choose your market, meet the players there, commit to buying something. If it's a duplex, awesome. If it's a 12plex, awesome. But if you want to become an investor, become an investor. If you want to try a new strategy, just implement the strategy. Don't add steps to it. So for anyone listening who's trying to get into the game, trying to play the game the way we did, choose your market, meet the people, do a deal. If you can do those 3 things, the rest of it will all fall into place.
That's awesome, man. Thank you so much, dude. I'm actually going to do that. Actually, we might have a heads up because we already have a management company which is owned by our buddy, Tom.
Excellent.
He is in Inland Empire. We already have LLCs and bank accounts and some money too. So I guess we just have to call people and just, get started on that area.
Yeah. And if you like coffee, it's great because I just drink a ton of coffee all day, meeting with people, but it's a very enjoyable way to go. I meet a lot of wholesalers and syndicators who just market, and they're just hammering the phones. They're hiring callers. We don't have any systems like that. I call, we get coffee, we talk, we may or may not ever do a deal. I'll always walk away from a meeting with some takeaway. And as long as you get a takeaway from every meeting, you're farther than you were the week before. So keep it simple. Don't add steps. If you want to buy real estate, buy real estate. And as long as you follow those principles, hard to go wrong.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much. I have definitely taken away from this conversation. I'm sure all of our listeners will too. Thank you so much for your time, Christian. Also, final thing, how do people get a hold of you?
So easiest way to get a hold of us, if you comment on any of our YouTube videos, that's awesome. Cody and Christian, multifamily strategy. If you want to reach out to me directly, I find that Instagram's probably the easiest one for me to answer. So that's just at Christian Osgood, which is OSGOOD. So either of those, ask us a question on our YouTube channel or hit me up on IG, and that's the easiest way to reach me.
Thank you so much, man.
Absolutely. You have a good one. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, you too.